Yeah. Hello, I'm Meg Osman, and I am with Canon Design. I'm also a past president of the Chicago chapter of Cornet Global. With me today is Meredith O'Connor. She's an international director at JLL. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Meredith.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So the Chicago chapter came up with, I thought, an awesome, inspiring idea to interview some of our leading women in Chicago. We're calling it 15 Women, 15 Minutes. And the hope is that by doing so that we could laugh together, be inspired, and maybe learn a little bit more about each other during this very interesting time that we're all in. So why don't we start by learning a little bit more about you and your career journey and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I started out as a sergeant at arms in the Chicago City Council, which most people wouldn't even really understand what that is, but essentially your job is to keep order. But back in the early 90s when I was hired, it was really more of a research assistant as well. So it was just before the internet. So my job was to keep order in the city council, but also to take notes and understand what the aldermen were talking about, what passed and what didn't. So if the public called, I would be able to answer questions and keep good notes. So I got to meet a lot of people along that journey in the city council, and also went to school at night to get my MBA. So at one point during my tenure I was actually the youngest ever sergeant at arms, because I think I wasn't even 22 years old when I was hired right out of college. So the mayor had called me up to the dais and said, hey, you can't do this job forever. What are your plans? And I said, well, I'm getting my MBA and I really would like to help businesses. I think it's really exciting to learn what the planning department does and, get involved in helping businesses. So he said, well, when you finish your MBA, you should come and talk to someone on my staff and we can see if we can make a change. So I did exactly that, and I ended up working in the planning department as an assistant commissioner on the north side of Chicago under Valerie Jarrett. So got to work as part of her administration. It was a really exciting time. I was assigned to a neighborhood that I grew up in, so the north and the northwest side region. So we were able to acquire many of the hotels along Lincoln Avenue and turn them into either libraries, police stations, fire stations. So it was really a great opportunity for me to not only learn real estate, but also help my community and work in the area that I love. So really my background has been consistently economic development, learning the incentives programs. So I think when I started with Mayor Daley in the early 90s, there were 2 TIF districts in the city of Chicago. Now there's over 200. They're in almost every neighborhood. So it was really a great opportunity for me to learn, what was ultimately going to be something I did for a really long time. I just didn't know it back then.
Well, and I think those city contacts have really played a huge role in your career at JLL as well. I know most recently that they contacted you about how to help out with our pandemic.
Well, that's right. Well, the city and the state both played a role in that. Jones Lang LaSalle has had a long history of helping the city and being a partner to the city, as does the state of Illinois. So the state actually the city is the one that reached out and said, we need to transform McCormick Place into a healthcare facility just in case. And most people have seen the story that transforming those 3 halls into a hospital or a healthcare facility in non-critical. We were able to do it in less than a month. So, and as you might know, 2 of those halls were since closed down because the need wasn't there, thank God. But one is 600 beds still remain in McCormick Place just in case. So I think everybody hopes that doesn't get mobilized. But our team's also helping the state of Illinois with the opening of 3 hospitals that were shuttered recently, and we're very active in those right now as well. So
yeah, that's a pretty long road to come from being a sergeant at arms and, to where you are today. It's got to be very interesting. So what do you like to do outside of work? What inspires you and kind of keeps you motivated? Because we all know that this work, in commercial real estate can be very, very intense. So what do you do to kind of inspire yourself or take the load off a little bit more?
Yep. Well, most people that know me would tell you, everything about my life is either my kids or my community. And, I have 5 children. They're my world. I've been happily married for 23 years. And, born and raised in Chicago, we actually have 75 relatives that live in about a square mile and a half, if you can imagine. It's got to be some kind of record for sure. But growing up in the neighborhood, having my kids grow up in a very similar neighborhood, just about a mile away from where I grew up, has really been great. My kids have gone through the Chicago public schools. A couple of them are in college already, but my commitment to working for the mayor and staying in the city remains. I love the city. In terms of ways to get involved in the community, I serve on many boards. YMCA, we're very active right now. They've got a lot of success going with the pandemic and helping others. JDRF, I got involved in. My nephew is type 1 and was part of raising $4 million in one night for their gala, which is a great organization. I'm very active in M-Hub, if you're familiar with that. It's, fourth revolution type of incubator that's really making some great innovation as well, and has been very much involved in the pandemic themselves. So,
yeah, and I know when we spoke the first time, you mentioned that you were starting to get involved to help start one of the first women-only banks, which I thought was crazy inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of the women that watch these interviews would love to hear more about it if you can share more.
Yeah, so the First Women's Bank, they've been getting some pretty good press lately as well. They were just pre-approved by the FDIC, so that was a great milestone that just happened a week or so ago. Yes, I serve as a co-chair on the advisory board. So recently put together a phone call for interested parties, not only on the investment side, but just ways to get involved in this new bank. We had 44 of our great friends dial in at 8 o'clock at night. And, there's a lot of interest going on, and it's really, a lot of people are saying, well, why open a bank now? Does it make sense during a pandemic? But now more than ever, when you think about First Women's Bank and its mission being diversity and inclusion, and really it's not the traditional retail bank that you think about. It's a bank that lends to helping small businesses. So, and large businesses, but it's in a sector that's a little bit different than your traditional major bank that we think about on every corner. So there are ways to get involved. I got involved early. I love their mission. I think they're doing great things, and the strength of their board and the folks that founded it are very strong, and I'm just a believer that it's going to be a great business.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's amazing. And I think women look for things like that. They look to be a part of an organization that they feel they can be included, and that, maybe their questions don't sound silly or whatever it is, if they want financial advice or something, that they really want to be surrounded by peers and people that they feel comfortable with and talking to. So that's really exciting. I was so excited to hear about that. So I know a lot of us have had a little time on our hands, maybe not a ton of time on our hands. Certainly with 5 kids, you probably have had less time on your hands. But I have been picking up books again, and I'm guessing that you maybe have too. Are you a part of a book club?
Funny that you'd ask. So Lori Healy and I, Lori's the president now of Clayco, Chicago region, one of my best friends. Many years ago, it's got to be over 10 years ago now, she and I founded a No Books Allowed book club. So as my kids say, Mom, your drinking club has a reading problem.
Your Irish club.
Yeah. But you know what? It's about women helping women. We kind of try to never talk about work when we're together. It's about just a release valve of being able to help another woman and grow. Many of us are from politics, so people that were on Ron's staff or Lori Lightfoot, a lot of us were from the Daley administration, or many worked for President Obama. And there's a lot of folks on the book club that you might see their name a lot in the newspaper, but nonetheless, they need a release valve as well. And it's been a great friendship. But to answer your question, I do read books every once in a while, just not for my book club. And I'm reading the one by Elon Musk right now because it's so relative to what's happening. I pick up the paper and I read about Tesla, and then you see, I took my kids to the launch recently. It was super exciting. Just what he's doing about getting to Mars is really not only believable, he's proving everything he's been talking about for the last 5 to 10 years. So I decided to pick up that book. I thought it was very timely and maybe I could learn something. So great read so far.
Yeah, it's definitely a little mind-boggling, but I think right now we all need a little something that we can reach towards and feel good about, and try to still believe that the world is going to progress and there will be a new tomorrow and we'll be better off tomorrow maybe than we are today. So our time actually is already coming to a close. We're like right there. Yeah, I know, it's fast. It goes very, very fast. So any words of encouragement, any advice you would give maybe any young women that are starting out during this crazy, crazy time, kind of off the top of your head, what encouragement would you give?
You know what, I think it's funny, I grew up in a house where my parents used to say there's only 2 types of people, the people that do all the work and the people that take all the credit. And you want to be in the first group because there's no competition. And believe it or not, I've always said, the best story always wins. What are you doing today that tells your best story? How do you get involved? How do you work hard? I tell my kids, if you're working for someone and they ask you for 3 things, give them 5, give them 6. Don't give them the 3. Think outside the box and try to go the extra mile. I mean, I work for a guy that he's been a hero to me, Roger Staubach, ever since I joined the JLL team. And he always says there's no traffic jam along the extra mile. It's going that extra mile and making sure that you're doing what isn't always just asked of you. Do a lot more if you can.
Right. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, thanks, Meredith. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for giving all the sage advice. I think there's a lot of people out there that would love to have, time with any of us. And I think this is a great opportunity just to kind of share with people what we're up to and what we found in our own careers. So thanks so much again.
Thank you, Meg.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.